In this video, I want to take a look at a game which I played against Magnus. That is the app, not the actual flesh and blood Magnus Carlsen. The game lasted a couple of hours, and I was playing against Magnus at age 10. So the game began as a Sicilian. I decided not to go for an open Sicilian because, well, I want to keep the position closed since I'm playing a computer. And this has all been seen before. And here we have a novelty by Magnus, knight d7, which is not a very good move. And now knight b6, which is very strange. Here I played king h1, just getting out of any potential bishop checks along this diagonal. And knight d4, which I was kind of expecting. Here I played knight g5 just to try to provoke h6 and have some weaknesses. Now this move just doesn't make any sense, just going back. And here I decided to go for g4. The engine, well, one of the engines, I looked at it with 3 different engines, and well, a couple of them seem to really like this move f5. And here h4, which is just extremely complicated. But after g4, bishop f6, knight h3, so because knight f3 hangs the pawn, and h5, which I just thought was asking to lose the game. I played rook g1, but there is this ridiculous move. She takes h5, just giving up the piece with tempo. So bishop takes, hitting the rook g1, and if something like king h7, rook g3, bishop drops back, check, and now the other rook joins the attack, so you defend the pawn, and after f5 you can't take the pawn because you get mated. If you take, check, and well, after the bishop blocks, then you just take it and it's checkmate. So after rook g1, this move queen e8, which is not really doing much to protect the king. And again, the engine likes f5, which is very complicated. Now the reason I kept delaying f5 is because the knight comes to e5, and I just didn't want the knight there because now it's defending g6. So, but here the engine prefers this move, takes, and after bishop takes, knight e5, thinks that white has a pretty significant advantage. Instead I play knight f2 after h4, which I don't really like this move because, well, now I can play g5 and this pawn is artificially isolated. So I'm hoping to win the pawn and just have a better position. So bishop d4, bishop g4. The point is I wanted to put the knight on h6, or if e6 is ever played, then this square on f6 is also very good. And now a5, which also doesn't make any sense. Here I recaptured, and I think the best move is just to recapture. Actually, not with the queen, but it's with the knight. But there was this in-between move, which is not a good move because later on the queen is gonna get to h3, and because of this move, well, now the queen is just gonna get there in one move. So after queen takes, rook g4, hitting the pawn. Now the engine likes knight g4, and after something like king g7, just put the other rook here, just putting pressure down the files, the f and g files. So now knight d4 with the threat of knight c2, attacking the queen and the rook. So I just stopped up with rook c1. Now, tactically, apparently, rook takes is working, which is just not something I'm gonna play against a computer. So you give up the rook basically, and after f5, well, there is a threat, so I'm just gonna make a bad move. This is not the best move by far. It's knight c8, and now you're just getting mated in 5 moves. So if f6, check, check, takes, and mate. But even if you played the best move, instead of knight c8, it's still giving white a very good advantage. So I mean, if you can calculate it, then you're probably a genius. And now this move, h3, which I just think it's a blunder. Again, because earlier black took on e3, now the queen can just capture the pawn. Without that move, the queen would still be on d2, and that would not be possible. And here another just, I don't know, I guess the engine just doesn't know what to do, so it's just playing ridiculous moves. And you can see the evaluation. And here I played rook h4. Now you have to trade queens, otherwise you're pretty much getting mated. Now I tried to make queen h6 work in several positions, but it just wasn't quite, I wasn't quite seeing how to win. I was finding defensive moves for black, and here after e6, well, rook h4, f5, takes en passant, king f7, and now this move, knight g4, which is not, I mean, you have the threat of forking the king and queen, so you have to go for knight f3, and well, you're hitting the rook and you're defending the fork, so, but this is still just, I mean, this king is so weak. Now my king is not the safest, but it's a lot safer than black's king. Instead, I just decided, well, why not just trade queens? I'm up a pawn. Without the queens, I don't have to worry so much about getting checkmated. Now, the engine thinks that I'm giving up a lot of my advantage by playing this move, but I think it's a decent way to play because, well, you don't really have any losing chances, so you're basically playing for a win or a draw. So that's, and after this move, I really didn't want to play b3 because I was kind of hallucinating that the knight was gonna sacrifice on b3. So after b3, I thought, well, if this happens, then am I not just gonna lose? Now here, at first I thought that c4 might work, but that's just is not working. But rook a3, and if you play seemingly natural moves, then I think black is okay. For example, knight g4 and knight e2 and king g2, because the threat was rook b1 check and then winning the rook. So, but you still have to sacrifice the rook for the pawn. So this is actually not a good line for white, but it doesn't work with proper moves by white, which is why Magnus played this move, rook fe8. And now finally I get my knight to h6. Here again, this move, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But the knight looks pretty there, and without the queens, it's not that big a deal. So king g2, just improving my king. And now the king is controlling these squares so that this rook can move. And now I want to trade this knight, which is very good, is the best piece that black has. So I just want to get rid of it. And so I just take it. And, well, rook c4 just hitting this pawn. Now the engine did like this move d6, which is just, I think, a really good move. If you can find moves like that, then you're probably master strength. Because after takes f5, then you go f6, and, well, here it doesn't matter what, king f8 loses a rook, but king h8 is even worse. You just get mated. 95 check, king g8, 97 check, and now mate. So after rook c4, I went king e2, and now b5, which pretty much forces me to trade rooks, because if I take the pawn, I just don't want to have to deal with this check and then losing this pawn, because this pawn is just 2 scores away from promoting. So now I have king d2, which stops any infiltration on the second rank. And after f6, well, I just go back knight g4, and, well, after this move I have this 95. Now here I knew that I was already, objectively speaking, winning, but I can still mess it up. So after knight takes, this move really surprised me. At first I thought that if I don't capture or find the correct move, I might just end up drawing the game, which seems crazy because looking at the evaluation, I mean, you would think that this would be pretty simple, but when you're playing and you don't know what the engine evaluation is, especially when you're playing against a computer, it can be a little scary. So takes, and now rook h4, getting the pawn. And this should be pretty simple. And here I was really happy with this move, rook h4. It's the best move in the position. Now I knew that several moves are winning, pretty much just about any move is winning. But rook h4 is actually the best move. And from a practical point of view, it's also the move that gives black or restricts black's counterplay the most. And here, well, I also thought about just playing d4, but decided to play this move instead. And here rook h6, so that the rook is tied up to the defense of the pawn, so that potentially I can push this guy. And after rook h8, I did thought that the computer was going to go f4, which it did, and I calculated this and knew that this should be winning for me after king e4, so I calculated all of that from after I played rook h8. And well, here this looks simple. Check. I don't even have to recapture this pawn because, well, it's dead anyway. I mean, if it moves, then I'll just take it. And okay, I don't need to show the rest of the game because it's pretty simple. So yeah, I was pretty happy because it's the first time that I beat Magnus at h10 in a rather easy or easier way than I usually do. Usually it's more of a struggle for me to win, and I thought it was a pretty clean game. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.